What's good, people? What's good? Back here from Big Boy Beats. Yeah, I'm just going to stream. Simple as that, really. So, I've had this idea about streaming on YouTube for a while and sharing my productions. And I thought, you know what? What the hell? Missus has gone out. Kids are in bed. So, here I am. So, in setting this stream up, I've had a bit of a problem. And that problem being that some of the plugins that I have used for this track that I'm going to share with you have somehow become unregistered. So I've had to go into... I bought them through Splice. It's the Korg pack. So I've had to go in, re-register them, and now it wants me to reinstall. So I'm going to be doing a bit of a track breakdown, but I'm not going to actually be able to play some of the parts. I'm going to play the full master and take you through some of the elements of it. And it's a track you heard on the intro. So the track is called Move Closer. It's out on my label Big Boy Beats as a Juno exclusive towards the end of this month, and then out everywhere else, I think, around about the 11th of November. But yeah, I'm going to take you through it. So I'm going to switch to the monitor I need to share, and you'll have to excuse me. I'm using Streamlabs. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. So yeah, you're going to have to bear with me while I'm trying to figure this out. So here's the track itself. I've got the master at the bottom. And this, it was a bit of a beast, to be honest. I think I ended up with 50... If I don't count that because there's nothing on it. That and that. So 53 tracks fed into this, which is massive for me, to be honest. I don't usually make tunes that have got that many sort of like elements to it. So the way I always set things up is I've got a section at the top which usually has splice bridge. If you don't know what splice bridge is, I don't actually know whether it's going to help me, going to let me open it. Here it will, bear with me. I might have to switch to a different monitor setup though. Yeah, so Splice Bridge is an app that lets you open Splice in the background, the Splice app. So you can monitor your sounds, and whatever you're playing here will play into your DAW. I always have Loop Cloud set up as well, and if I open the Loop Cloud app, it's going to open it on the other monitor, which I didn't want it to do. You can do the same thing. You can browse through your sounds on there. But generally speaking, that's how I sort of like set up my sessions before I start going. If I get rid of that, and then I've got this group here, which is sort of like the all tracks group, and I like to put things into an all tracks group once I've got my mix sort of like very, very loosely laid out, if you know what I mean, because then it gives me a platform to start building what I think I need to do pre-master. So all of these tracks will individually be mixed and EQ'd to a certain degree. And then what I'll do is I'll do another sort of like round of EQing and some parallel compression on the lows, mids and highs if it needs it. And then I'll have a listen to that, and then I'll do the master. So I don't make a massive amount of money off music, full stop, to be honest. It's a hobby. It's something I really, really enjoy doing. So I don't have my stuff professionally mastered. I master everything in-house, and hopefully if there's enough time on this stream, I'll show you what I do. So I'm going to show you some individual elements of the track to start with. I'm not going to be able to show you like the main synth line because, as I said, a couple of plugins need reinstalling, which I'm not too happy about, if I'm being totally honest. But yeah, we'll go through the drums first, because the drums are really simple. Just your standard two-step beat, really. So nothing amazing going on really. Your standard sort of like 2-step beat. Got a kick drum, and if you're interested, oh gosh, nothing's going right tonight. But that's the programming for the kick. We've got a perk layer, which I'll play. Again, nothing too crazy going on with that. I've then got a loop which I've thrown in it, and I've called the actual track Shuffle Shiz. Don't ask me why I came up with that, but I'll play this. So it would have been a full loop, and what I've done is I've just taken a few bits out that I like. Again, I've done the same with the top loop. I've just taken a couple of hits out for another one of the top loops. And it's just that open hat. I've got this snare hit, which I've sort of reversed and then left it normal. Let's play that. Now, that sample, a friend of mine, another artist, who I believe it was Dan, from the Step 2 guys, he sent me that sample, because I said I've been dying for like a really funky snare roll and that classic UKG sort of like snare hit, and he sent that to me. So big up Dan, thank you very much for that. So altogether the beats are, let's take from that funky snare hit because I really like that. Just bring the bass in. So you get the idea. The bass patch, it's all from analog, from Arturia analog, and I've got, sorry, no, I'm lying to you. I think I originally planned on using the Arturia analog lab plugin for it. I played some of the bass parts in, but then I figured out it just sounded better with different plugins. So I've got two 808s here. I'm going to play the 808s here and let's solo those out. So the 808s only come in for that one part of it. So the core bass line, so to speak, is from these two parts here. And it says 808 Warfare, but yeah, it is. So I've got a high 808. In fact, I do believe I've basically got 4 sets of 808. Let me listen to this one like so. Yeah, it's definitely an 808. I think this one isn't an 808. This one says Bass Rhodes. Let me see. That's the thing about yeah, it is. It's a Rhodes EP from Analog, as you can see there. That's the thing, when you sort of like have done a track, it's very, very rare I remember what I've used in it, but I tend to throw stuff in. If it sounds good, I'll use it. So if I play these two parts of the bass together, hopefully you'll get the feel for it. So there you have that. With the bass, I have this sort of instrument rack I set up for every single one of my tracks. I have a utility on there which controls the level, and I use that for gain staging. So I'll bring everything down to about minus 18 dB using the gain knob. I'll have another utility on there which just monoing the bass frequencies below 120 Hz. Then I'll have the initial EQ on the actual bass group itself, and I've cut some of these frequencies out because they were clashing with some of the other elements. It'll make more sense as I play it later. I use track spacer to sidechain the kick, and I've got a little bit of a high cut roll off because I've put some of these bass elements through some distortion using, I think it's Saturn 2, which is a Fab Filter plugin, and I didn't want to lose the hissing on the bass. So, and then one of my new faves, so to speak, that I like using is this Smart EQ, and it's just phenomenal, to be honest with you. It's not going to show me what it is on here. If I click on bass, where's the bass? Is it going to let me expand on the bass? No, it's not. But I'll show you that a little bit later as well. But basically what Smart EQ does is you put it on your track, you press listen, and it will recommend certain EQ curves for the type of track that it's on. These are the individual bass tracks and the processing that's on those. So if I look at the main 808, you'll see that I've not really done a lot to it. I've rolled off everything below sort of like 16 Hertz, which is the muddy area of your bass, and then cut the frequency just before 400 Hertz there, just to take a bit of mud out of the low mids. On the other bass, which is the Rhodes piano sort of like low end, I've done some drastic EQing on this. You can see I've taken everything out below sort of like 120 Hertz. I've got a massive dynamic dip there around 300 where it was clashing with the other bass. Rolled all the top end off because the top end it's almost made up for in the distortion that I've put it through on the Saturn. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to solo the bass elements again, and I'm going to listen to this entire section here, and I'll flick through some of the plugins so you can see what they're doing, and I'll mute my mic while I'm doing it. So in the description to this scream, I'll get my words out in a minute. In the description to the stream, I said that it was going to be totally unscripted and unplanned, and I'm very, very quickly realising that I should have scripted it and I should have planned it. But you know what? Let's just roll with it. Let's be as raw as we can. So you were listening to the beats and the bass on their own. The only thing I didn't put in them with then is the crashes, but I'll put them in a little bit later. Looking at the instrument elements then. I'm going to play this section here. And I'm going to solo it. And they're basically 1, 2, 3 different roads all playing together. So have a listen. So I'm sorry that I have not been able to open up the actual instruments on these. Again, me being me and being totally unprepared, I don't actually know once you're in this screen how to get the instrument to be displayed again. But I'm not going to worry about it. It's just your standard Analog Lab 5. Which has a number of different instruments in there. The Rhodes are all from the electric piano section. So, yeah. And I've just changed that, so that's not going to sound the same anymore. Let's get rid of the Rhodes. Get rid of those. So we've got as well some pianos that come in at one part. I'll just solo that. Schoolboy error. I thought my mic was on, but obviously it wasn't. So that piano there, I absolutely love it. It was Native Instruments The Gentleman on the basic setting. I've got the lid fully open with the tone set to hard. Running through an EQ where it's literally cutting everything off below sort of like 270 hertz, but I'm boosting around about 5 dB in the high range, because what I really wanted it to do is I wanted the higher tones of that piano to stick out like a sore thumb in the mix. Also going through Valhalla Supermassive just to give it a bit of reverb. I'm using 1/8 triplets on the delay, but I've not got the mix up too high because I didn't want it to overpower the original tones of the piano. I've got this section as well here for the pianos, and basically what I did is I bounced the audio from the piano with all the reverb and then just chopped it up and reversed it in a few places, so I'll play that. I think that's quite effective. And again, that only sort of comes in one part. I've only got like one part where the piano comes in, and then one part where that reverse piano comes in. And I suppose the idea behind that is I wanted to try and keep the track fresh as it developed. Bits of ear candy here, there, and everywhere, just to keep the listener interested. Now, these are the parts I'm not going to be able to play because my plugins are all screwed up. So I might be able to play the Triton. Bear with me. No, sorry, it's not going to let me play it, but you'll hear it in the full mix. The only thing that I can play you in this bit is this sort of like serum stab. It's really annoying, to be honest, because the pads are one of my favourite bits about it. But basically, I've got a Triton pad playing the grand concert, but there you go, demo appeared as it expired. Guys, I'm going to have to be back in just a second because I can hear one of the kids upstairs, so I'm going to play the master. I'll be back. Sorry about that, guys. The one's got a cold, so I could hear him upstairs. So, where was I? I was talking about the pads, wasn't I? So yeah, one of the pads was Triton, called Triton. There, he won't let me show you. Another one was Arp Odyssey, which is another Korg instrument. with the authentic lead plugin. And then I've got this serum. Let me get rid of that. Serum patch, which is playing that little funky stab. And it's a preset from a pack of some sort. Can't remember what presets, and I'll just tweak things as I'm going along. But that's that. And then I think the only thing left to show you is the vocals. So it was a massive sort of like vocal sample, so to speak, that I chopped up as good as I could. I didn't want to use the entire verse, and I don't actually know. We're just gonna let me show you the. Yeah, it will actually. You'll be able to hear the whole vocal from here.
If the answer was you, and the question was... If the answer was you, and the question was me, now I wanna see if we can move closer. If we can move closer. If the answer was you, and the question was me.
So what I've done is I've used the vocal,
Now I wanna see
but I've chopped it and used delays in between it.
if we can move closer. If the answer was you.
So I do actually really like the processing I've done on these vocals. So basically, you've got your main line, which is this one here.
If the answer was you.
Which has a reverb on it. And then you've got the delayed version of it. And basically, I don't know whether you can see it here, but in the compressor, the delayed vocal is being sidechained from the main vocal. So when the main vocal's present, those delayed vocals are really, really low. And then as soon as the main vocal stops sending a signal out, that delay and the reverb can bleed through. And that's what I tried to do, almost like a bit of a send and recall, just using that vocal. And then as we go a bit further, we've got the lower vocals here, but I'm going to play the whole vocal group again.
And the question was me. Now I wanna see. If we can move. If we can move closer.
Now, I'm the first person to admit that that low vocal sounds proper ropey on its own. And I think it's because it's pitched down so much. But that was how that sample came, because I think it was from Loop Cloud. that sample came like that. So all I've done is I've just tried to make it into like a bit of a telephone voice, really sort of like vocodery. Built this EQ curve which looks like a bottom or a pair of something else, and got this Sonable Smart EQ on it again, which is boosting sort of like the lows, taking out some of the harsh frequencies. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play possibly my favourite bit from the master, because I can't play the whole track. So I'm going to play these few bars here, and then what I'll try and do, if there's enough time left on this stream, is I'll just try and jump into the mastering part of it. So bear with me. Yeah, so that's pretty much how the track was constructed. Relatively simple two-step beats, 808s on the bass line, Rhodes pianos, one sort of like normal acoustic grand piano section, some funky synth lines using the Korg pack. I forgot the actual name of it now, but it's basically like the Korg collection. You can get it on Splice, and that is pretty much it. So I'm going to jump into the mastering session really quickly. I'm not going to save that, so I've made some changes. So as I said, this track is out on, do you know what, let me get you the exact date that the track's out, because I've been talking about the track being out and not actually told you the date. So it is out on, it's out on Juno, download on the 28th of this month. So that's 28th of October 2020, and officially everywhere else, so Spotify, Beatport, iTunes, or Apple Music as it's referred to now, on the 11th of November 2020. So here's a mastering session for it then. Really colourful, my apologies. So here's the first mix down of it, and then I went away and I mixed it again. I was happier with the second mix, so then what I did and I'm going to ignore this one, is on the second mix I started to build up my mastering chain. So my mastering chain changes every single time. On this one it was pretty basic, to be fair. I'd got some EQ to start with just to see what the curve was like. So I'll play it now and then you'll hopefully be able to see. Now I always, and it's one of the tips that you get when you're sort of like mastering your music, is always go to the loudest part of the track. So this will be the loudest part of the track. I will knock the volume down just a little bit so it doesn't burst your eardrums. So the purpose of that first EQ really is just to have a look at what the spectrum analyzer is saying. Is there any sort of like major peaks that I want to try and get rid of, or is it delivering sort of like that flat sound? And it was, to be fair. Next thing I use is Ozone Imager. So I've recently upgraded to Ozone 10. And do you know what? Props to Ozone, because I had Ozone 9 before. Then I installed Ozone 10. And what it did is everything that I'd used Ozone 9 on automatically transferred to Ozone 10. So I didn't have to go and re-drop the plugins back in, which is phenomenal. It's fantastic. It's definitely the best experience I've had with plugins recently, because I've moved over from PC to Mac and it's been an absolute nightmare. So with the Imager, everything sort of like below 120 Hz I'm setting to mono. Then I do sort of like reduce the stereo image in sort of like the 120 Hz to 2K range, because I don't really want that to be that wide. Then 2K to around about 7K, I'm making it a little bit wider, and then in the very, very high frequencies I'm setting that really, really wide. I never push it all the way though. I'm then using the Ozone Vintage compressor. I don't think the compressor was doing a lot, bear with me. No, it's getting me 1 dB of gain reduction at the most. Just sort of like taking out some of the really, really sort of like high, what's the word? I'm looking, transients of when the kick drops. Some really, really tiny boosting in around about 270 Hz. I would have probably gone and done like an EQ sweep to identify where I felt that boost was needed. Then a bit of clipping using the K-Clip 3. You'll be able to see what this is doing. And that's basically being used just as a way of sort of like introducing a little bit of volume. But again, with that, I'm making sure that I'm not going too high, because I don't want to go too hot into the limiter. Now, the limiter I used on this was the Sonable Smart limit. And I'm not going to lie to you, I put it in, I pressed the button here, which is basically the learn button, and it worked. It worked. I didn't mess with it, so I left it at that. I use Ulean to gauge where my levels are. I'm not one of these people that sort of like master to to minus 14 LUFS, because that's what Spotify will reduce the volume to. I want it loud enough so it's going to sound good on anything. I don't want it too loud that it's going to be distorted. But again, I don't want it too quiet. I want it to sound translatable when it's played next to another track in a club, or when I'm throwing it on my decks and giving it a spin. So my sweet spot is always around about minus 10, minus 9 LUFS. It's just what I go for, and it works for me. And then the last thing on the actual master chain, which doesn't actually do anything, it was just to monitor the tonal curve. Now what I've done is I set the curve to sort of like bass heavy, because this track is quite bass heavy, and I aimed to get it so it balanced within that sort of sweet spot, and hopefully if I play it you'll see that. So yeah, that's the master chain for it. Nothing too crazy, and it tends to be what I do roughly every time. I'll put a spectrum analyzer and EQ on at the start just to see what the frequency is doing. Stereo imaging, compression, then I'll EQ it again, then I'll clip it, I'll limit it, and that's it. That is pretty much it. That being said, because of the rave reviews that the Ozone 10 has had, I did do a second master, which I'll play now, and I'll play them in comparison, just to see what Ozone could do if I was just throwing Ozone on and letting Ozone master the track. So I'm going to flip between the two. Here's mine, here's Ozone, so I'll play mine first and then I'll flick to Ozone. And the upsetting thing is I actually do prefer the Ozone Master, but I mastered this myself, tested it in the car, was really happy with it. Then I upgraded Ozone 9 to Ozone 10. Then I tested the Ozone 10 on the Master, and then realised I did like it. The difficulty I've got is there's only subtle differences. I think Ozone 10 brings out some of the highs, and I think it also introduces a little bit more stereo image. But I can live with it, to be fair. It's not a massive deal for me. I'm still really happy with the Master. So yeah, there you have it. Baker, Move Closer, out later this month, and that is pretty much how a breakdown of the track. I'm really sorry I couldn't go into detail on how I put together those the synth lines and how I EQ'd everything, but I'll be here forever and a day, and maybe on the next video if I do another stream, we'll see how it goes. But hopefully I'll be able to show you a little bit more detail. The idea behind me doing these streams is just to grow, I suppose, grow myself on a different platform. I'm in no means, I don't means class myself as being a professional, but have a lot of fun making music and producing. I'm in my little studio set up, which is at the back of my dining room. it's not acoustically treated. I can't play it that loud, hence the headphones. But yeah, it's this is me. This is how I do it. So I really appreciate you guys viewing. I know we didn't get anyone join the stream, but this video will be around for people to watch. So yeah, I will play out using the master, and take care, guys. See you all soon.
If we can move closer.